Let's start with something it says in Tanya. Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says that it is absolutely essential, non-negotiable, that you have to serve and practice Yiddishkeit and mitzvahs out of simcha. And without that, it's just not right. It's not the real thing. How can you be besimcha when there are so many reasons or causes for being miserable? That's before we even get to your teens. So the Rebbe gives advice on how to maintain simcha. One of the issues is the sadness that we feel over our own failings, our own weaknesses, our Yetzer Hara, our unholy thoughts, interests. It's very upsetting. We're supposed to be holy and we're not. We're supposed to be good, but we have some pretty bad thoughts, feelings, attractions. So the Alter Rebbe says, in effect, I'm not quoting verbatim, the Alter Rebbe basically says like this: if you want to do tshuva because you committed some sin that's bothering you, do tshuva. If you're just going to be miserable, that's not useful. That's not helpful. It's not even good. Now the assumption, the normal, conventional thinking is that if you did something bad, you should be miserable. I mean, come on, you're not a monster. You know you did something bad, you have a conscience. Your conscience bothers you. Wouldn't it be scary if it didn't even bother you? To make it a little more difficult, if the sadness is not that you did something wrong, the sadness is that you are wrong. You're a nasty person. You're an unholy person. You didn't do anything wrong, but everything about you is wrong. You think wrong, you feel wrong, there's no tshuva, you can't do tshuva for that. So shouldn't you be miserable about that? I mean, if you hear that somebody is frum, don't you expect him to be miserable? It's not. I mean, it comes with it's part of the package. You see a person walking down the street happy, can't be good. What, he has no conscience, or he's a tzaddik? What is it? The Alter Rebbe says, you have bad thoughts, you have bad feelings, you're basically a nasty person? What, are you surprised? Not a tzaddik, we know that. If you're not a tzaddik, oh, guess what? If you're not a tzaddik, you have some pretty nasty thoughts and feelings. So the Eibishter gave you, nasty person, gave you mitzvahs, so that you can do something useful. So what are you kvetching about? Go do it. You're going to wait until you stop being nasty? Not nice. So in effect, the Rebbe is saying like this: there's bad, there's good, and there's that dark, ugly, nasty mush in between. Which just makes you miserable. It doesn't make you better. So if you want to do tshuva, fine. Set some time, do tshuva. You don't want to do it today, wait for Yom Kippur. But do tshuva. Be miserable, not kosher. Not kosher. Because it's neither here nor there. It's not tshuva. You're not going to stop sinning, and you're not going to be happy. So what have you got from this? Now, that every Pedic in Tanya upsets somebody. And that's why the Rebbe spent a day in jail for each Pedic. What is upsetting about this to frum people? It's upsetting because it sounds like you're letting them off the hook. It shouldn't be possible that you're bad but you're happy. No, they can't stand that. Can't allow this. You have to be miserable if you're bad. Why? I don't know. Maybe it was believed that being miserable is a form of tshuva. So that's the price you pay. You got to pay the price. You want to do an Aveda, fine, but pay the price. And the price is walk around miserable.
The people doing the Avedas are not always the miserable ones.
Yeah. Yeah, the ones who think they did an Aveda are the most miserable, and they're the best people in the world. And that's why it was so sad in the times of the Baal Shem Tov, in the times of the Alter Rebbe, that good people were suffering for nothing. Being miserable because they thought they're supposed to be. So basically the Alter Rebbe is saying like this. We are not tzaddikim. Because we're not tzaddikim, we're nasty. In whatever way, everybody in their own original, unique fashion. But we're all nasty. Now, you can either accept that and say, look, that's what I am, that's what I'm going to be, that's what I'm going to do, and it doesn't bother me. Or you can say, isn't there something better that I could be part of? I'm never going to be anything special myself. Can I be part of something special? Can I do something for someone else that's special? Because I'm not going to be a tzaddik. That's the way our head should be oriented. That's how we should be thinking. A person who is shocked because they had an unholy thought or a bad feeling or enjoyed a sin, if you're shocked, it means you are not prepared for reality. It shouldn't come as a shock. That's our teva. It's our nature. What should I do about that? What I should do is something that makes me happy. Something that gives me a more noble, a more admirable, a more respectable function or job, so that I can override my own lowness. If you want to fix your own lowness, fine. Work on it. But what are you miserable about? So the Alter Rebbe is saying, if you want to fix and grow and become better, well, that's a very good project. What are you kvetching about? If you're not really fixing it, you're not really growing, you're not really getting better, you're just miserable, that's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. But let's put this in different words. How do we know that something is bad, wrong, ugly, nasty? How do we know? Who told you? I mean, to use a very current, painful example, we thought for sure, we were absolutely convinced that being gay is horrible, disgusting, sinful, perverted, blah, 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 blah. And we changed our mind. No, it's fine, it's okay, it's an alternative lifestyle, it's just as good. They should be able to get married, have equal rights, everything's fine. So you have to stop and think, wait a minute, if it's all fine, why were we under the impression, where did we get the the impression that it's terrible, wrong, ugly, nasty. In other words, if we can change our mind about what's right or wrong, what's good or bad, what's nice or ugly, if we can change our mind, then who is going to determine what we should think of behavior and decide whether it's acceptable or not acceptable, right or wrong? So where did we get this notion in the first place that anything is wrong? Who did this to us? In fact, part of the Nazi philosophy, and the reason that they were so determined to eliminate Judaism, is because Judaism was blamed. They blamed Jews for introducing the whole idea that something could be wrong. Because for an intelligent, superior race, for the perfect human being, whatever he feels like doing and whatever he decides to do is his right to do. To tell a person, an intelligent, grown adult, no, you shouldn't do that. I shouldn't do that? What kind of chutzpah is that? How unnatural that is. What do you mean I shouldn't? I have a neighbor who annoys me, so I kill him. No, you shouldn't do that. What, you want to kill him? Somebody's got to kill him. He's annoying. Yeah, but you can't. It's not right to kill him. You mean I should put up with? No. This is wrong. If I'm crippled and can't do what I need to do because es passt nicht, it's not nice, it's not, what is that? Who did this to us? Who made us so sick that we can't do what we need to do? And they don't even know half of it. They don't know, oh, thou shalt not commit adultery. Yeah, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Not only you shouldn't commit adultery, you shouldn't even talk. Oh, you shouldn't even look. No, you shouldn't even think. How crippling is that? That's so unnatural. And then, if you do think, or God forbid look, or even worse, talk, that's it. Your life is miserable. You walk around depressed. You don't know what to do with yourself. You cry. You say Tehillim. What? What happened here? So you see, the Nazis were not completely idiots. They had a very legitimate, what seemingly legitimate argument. Isn't it terrible? Isn't it terrible? You watch people walking up and down the streets in a frum neighborhood, and it's very sad. It's very sad. Where's the simcha? Where's the good feeling? Where's the upbeat? Where? Oh, we're frum. We don't smile unless absolutely necessary. If you force me, maybe, but otherwise... So, the Alter Rebbe is basically saying, there's godly and there's ungodly. Ungodly, that's the way we are. You want godly? Fine, go for it. Get some. Get some godliness. Maybe we should make a series of tapes on that. Get some godliness. You don't want to get godliness? So fine. So who's bothering you? Then what's bothering you? Can you imagine doing marriage counseling? A guy comes to me and says, I'm really miserable. I'm very miserable. I have no idea how to make my wife happy. I've tried and tried and tried. I don't know. I don't know, and I feel guilty, and I feel terrible, and I'm such a loser. So imagine, I mean, this is just hypothetical. Imagine I call in the wife and I say, what is it that your husband needs to do to make you happy? And she says, me? I'm perfectly happy. I'm completely happy. You got to wonder, what is wrong with that husband? He is concerned about her happiness and she's completely happy. Who's he married to? Who is he thinking about? How can he be miserable about somebody else when that somebody else is happy? Godliness means making God happy. We walk around miserable all the time because we're sure that we're not making him happy. Maybe we should ask him. Maybe we should find out. Maybe he really is quite happy with us. We don't know. So, of course, we assume that he's not so that we can be miserable. So if you want to do for him, what, you're going to do that with a frown?
Are we miserable because he's not making us happy? Not because
Okay. So when this husband says, I'm so upset because she's not happy, he really means himself. Because she happens to be happy and worried about him. Because he walks around miserable. So, the point of all of this is either get godly or enjoy what you have. Don't be in between. Don't say, I don't know if I can get any godliness, but I don't like myself the way I am. That's neither here nor there. That's not going to make you better. It's not going to make you healthier. It's not going to make you more moral. It's not going to help you do another mitzvah. It only leads down. Down. You walk into a yeshiva, and everybody there is under tension and pressure. Nobody smiles. Nobody's happy. You can feel the tension in the air. I don't need to know what's going on. This is wrong. Something is wrong. It's wrong for health reasons. It's wrong for psychological reasons. It's wrong for holy reasons. It's just wrong. Nothing good will come from this. You walk into a room and everybody's enthusiastic and everybody is up instead of down, and everybody's got energy and everybody's having a great time, then you have to wonder, what are they so happy about? And if it's bad things, then switch it to good things. But at least you have somebody to work with. You walk into a room of miserable people, what are you going to do? Tchias HaMesim. So, if you want to know whether your children are doing well, your first question, your first observation should be, are they excited? If they're excited, good news. Next step. What are they excited about? But it's good. It's almost like you have to make sure that your children wake up in the morning and love it. How good are they? If God wants them to be good, let him worry about it. But you're creating happy children. From the Torah's perspective, to work with happy children, to get them to be good, is so much easier than working with miserable children. So you're halfway there. I'm not sure, but there seems to be the opposite reaction in the environment. I'm not sure who to blame, but someplace in this environment, if a kid is happy, everybody comes down on him. Whoa, none of that is tolerated here. There's no happy. You don't walk around happy here. If you're happy, you got too much free time. Or you must be doing something not kosher. That's a terrible default position. Your kid comes home from camp or from yeshiva and he's very unhappy. You got to do something about that. And it doesn't matter what's making him unhappy. Unhappy is not acceptable.
Does this go for husbands too?
One thing at a time. I don't know, there should be a law. In any school, if a kid comes out of school upset, you should be able to sue them for abuse. They abused your kid. You sent a happy kid, and he came back miserable.
They're losing business.
It would be all over. But it shouldn't be acceptable. Should not be acceptable even for a day. What do you mean your kid came home unhappy? So now we found a scapegoat. Bullies. That's what makes children unhappy. They're being bullied. Does the bully come home happy at least? Is anybody happy? So somebody said, okay, now the whole society is going to bully the bullies. Because we're all bullies. This is not a solution. The problem is not bullies. If there is a bully, then you can identify the problem and fix it. But it's not. The whole atmosphere is an unhappy one. It's not acceptable. And that's why we look forward to the summer, because when a kid goes away to camp or to yeshiva's kayitz, this miserable kid suddenly becomes happy. Every day he's happy. So he is capable. If a kid comes home from camp unhappy, you got to really check that out. What happened? So, principle number 1. There is nothing good about being miserable. It's not part of tshuva. It doesn't lead to tshuva. It's not part of being frum. It's not part of Yiddishkeit. It's not part of Kedusha. It's totally unacceptable. It should not be. To put it in controversial terms, better to be happy about your sins than miserable over your mitzvahs. So don't tell anybody. But if your daughter is just happy and thrilled to be wearing not such tzniyazdika clothes, before you tell her to change her clothes, tell her how glad you are to see her happy. Don't throw away the good with the bad. So if you're going to start talking to her about tzniyas, and that's going to make her unhappy, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. You have a happy kid. Why do you want to ruin that? Oh, she should be happy about chitas. Not about her outfit. Okay. What are you going to do about that? Make her miserable? It doesn't work. It doesn't move her to a better place. So anytime your child is happy, enthusiastic about anything, enjoy it. Tell her you're thrilled to see her so happy. and then teach her how to be happy about better things.
How do we do that? We have to be happy constantly.
You have to be happy yourself. It would help. It's not very effective to miserably tell your kids to be happy. Or even to say, your happiness is making me miserable. The children's happiness should never make you miserable. It's a good thing, according to the Alter Rebbe and according to Chabad Hasidus. Let's put it again in different words. You're not allowed to sin. You're really not allowed. But there's more to you than your sins. So the Alter Rebbe again says in Tanya, it's true you're bad. You're very bad. Not the worst, because that's arrogant. Can't be the worst, but you're very bad. That's one part of the story. The other part of the story is the Eibishter invited you into his palace. Should you put on a smile and go? Or should you sit and be miserable because you're bad? There are two parts to us, the godly soul and the non-godly soul. The non-godly soul is what it is. We know what it is. It's a non-godly soul. The godly soul. So where did we get this impression that the two souls are equal? I'm 50% godly and 50% sinful. And one more sin, and I am mostly sinful. Well, that's a depressing thought. How did we get there? It's not correct at all. It's not 50-50. You have a godly soul, which is everything, and then you have this annoying little thing called a Yetzer Hara that is miserable and terrible. But what kind of comparison? In fact, why is anything the Yetzer Hara wants, why is it bad? What's bad about it? The godly soul doesn't like it. So it's certainly not 50-50. It's 90% godly soul, and then the 10% that is an annoyance that you have to kind of work around or stop it, but you are half bad, half good. Rambam says we should always think of ourselves as half bad, half good, and the next one, that's in terms of performance, not in terms of what you are. So if you discover that you have a Yetzer Hara, and the Yetzer Hara is really nasty and bad, you're going to be miserable? Let it be miserable. You're going to lose all the enthusiasm of the 90% of your godly soul over the 10% Yetzer Hara. It's not right. It's not right. Wait, there's more.
Maybe if someone, let's say, Michal Shabbos, something like that, or so, and he's happy, so you can tell him, you happy because of that? I mean...
He's happy because he was Michal Shabbos?
He's Michal Shabbos and he's happy.
Yeah, so the happy is good.
Then Michal Shabbos and he's okay?
No. No, but don't tell him that if he wants to stop being Michal Shabbos, he has to become miserable. Stop being happy. That's the first step. No. Don't ever stop being happy. But keep Shabbos. It's like saying, look, you're happy, it's wonderful. Now, can you do something to make the Eibishter happy too? Or are you all selfish? If a girl is happy, I say, okay, fine, great. Now you got your life together. You fry it out, you do whatever you want, you're happy. You want to do something to make your mother happy? No. No. What kind of answer is that? A guy asked me, what can I do to make my mother happy? I'm not frum, I'm not. But what can I do to make her happy? I said, well, don't shave. A lot of people who are not frum have beards, so don't shave. He says, no. I said, okay, I see already. You really want to make your mother happy. I said, how about if you say chitas? If your mother finds out that you say chitas, it'll make her very happy. He says, let's see, Chumash, maybe. Tehillim, Tanya, no. I said, you're not very devoted to your mother over here. So why not? Be happy and do something to make somebody else happy. What? That's asking too much? So the Alter Rebbe says something even further. It's not just that your Yetzer Hara is only 10% of who you are. Who created the Yetzer Hara? You did. The Eibishter created a Yetzer Hara, and he gave you a Yetzer Hara. I think he knew that you might actually listen to your Yetzer Hara once in a while. He knew that. He knows that. But he did it anyway. So, what's the point? The point is, if once in a while you choose him over the Yetzer Hara, makes him very happy. But you're walking around saying, I don't want a Yetzer Hara. I'm embarrassed to have a Yetzer Hara. You didn't create yourself. You're supposed to have a Yetzer Hara. You don't understand why? Fine. So learn, you'll find out. Don't learn, what's the difference? You're supposed to have a Yetzer Hara. You want to be better than God? If we got that cleared away, if we simply had a happier home, a happier community, a happier street, so many good things would happen. But we're afraid. Because if you do something bad, you should be miserable. It just sounds right.
We're miserable because we're stuck. And we feel like we're moving forward.
Well,
Not
if
because we're worried about our sins.
The biggest misery, the worst misery, is the religious misery. Even for non-religious people. The conscience, the guilt, it's the worst. Not being able to pay your bills and worried about it doesn't compare. So the Chiddush, the revolution of Chassidus is, you have no reason to be miserable. Stop it. But I did an Aveda. So you did an Aveda. What do you think? You're the first one? You want a medal? It's not impressive. You did an Aveda. You did 2 Avedas, 10 Avedas. Who cares? We have something so valuable to do. We have something so important. You're going to let an Aveda get in the way. Yeah, you shouldn't have done it in the first place. But even if you did do it. So that's it? The whole train has to stop because there's a mouse on the track? It's not a good example. You'd probably say yes. A mouse, that stops everything. But do you see what I'm saying? It's like, it's completely out of proportion.
But then you don't take anything seriously. Oh, it's all good.
Shouldn't I feel a little something?
You see?
Moment?
You see? You see? Okay, fine, I won't be miserable, but a little miserable.
Well, just for a moment.
Just to be
You
Yetzer.
should feel
Just to be-
something when you just did something for a moment, something. Otherwise, nothing has any meaning.
Right. You should feel regret. Regret means tshuva. Regret means I'm not doing it again. It doesn't mean miserable. Miserable means I'm going to do it again.
Okay, so you're allowed to feel regret.
Of course you feel regret.
But that doesn't feel good.
No,
When you're feeling
it
regret.
doesn't feel good.
Where do you define miserable and regret?
Regret is actually a symptom of being fully alive. I made a decision, I did it, I regret it, it was wrong, I'm not doing it again. It's flowing, it's moving, right? It's like the opposite of feeling stuck. But when you're miserable, without really regretting, there's no movement. You're stagnating. Regret is a movement. I tell you this very impressive Frierdiker Rebbe, when he came to America, was a very heavy smoker. And the doctor who came to give him his injections for the paralysis, they were friendly. It wasn't just an office visit. He would come, he would sit, the doctor. One time, this is back in the 40s, the doctor came and they sat at the desk, Frierdiker Rebbe's desk, and the ashtray was full of cigarette stubs. And the doctor mentioned that the research seems to be indicating that smoking is actually dangerous. Later in the conversation, the doctor takes out a pack of cigarettes and offers the Rebbe a cigarette. Because everybody was still smoking, So he offers the Rebbe a cigarette. So the Rebbe says, I don't smoke. So he was like, the Rebbe said, you told me a half hour ago that it's not healthy, so I don't smoke. That's called regret. But if the Rebbe would say, really? You mean I have to stop? Can I have at least one cigarette? That's misery. The Rebbe says, if it's wrong, then it's out of the question. Then I don't smoke. Not I'll try to cut back, I'm a smoker, but I'll no. Done. I don't smoke. Which leads us to another thing. The reason we're miserable about our failings is not because we failed, but because we think of ourselves as a failure. Everybody can handle making a mistake. You come home and you tell your husband, I made such a mistake, I blew it, it's going to cost a lot of money, it's a mistake. Whatever it is, it's over. But if you start feeling that you're a mistake, this is me, I am an ugly, nasty, that's miserable. When the Rebbe said, I don't smoke, it means I am free. It's the real Bechira. I am free to give myself whatever identity I want. No matter what happens, I have Bechira. And Bechira means I can identify myself any way I want. Now, sometimes that seems like a chutzpah. Person doesn't do anything right, doesn't do anything that they're supposed to do, doesn't keep any of them in Hagim, and calls himself a chassid. And you think, yeah, you're a chassid. You're a chassid. Did you do this? Did you do that? No. So you think, what a chutzpah. A person can be so unchassidish and yet call himself, not just call, he really thinks of himself as a chassid. It may be a chutzpah, but it's a very important, healthy thing. You're always free to identify yourself whichever way you want. Nobody can take that away. So the Frierdiker Rebbe, again as an example, is sitting in a Soviet prison. What is it? What do they do to you in a prison? They make you their prisoner. Right? He mentions in the diary. They take away your name and give you a number. You are now a number. A human being has bechira. You can burn the number on my arm. I'm me. I'm not a number. I have a number. I'm locked in your jail. I'm eating your food. And I'm wearing your clothes. And I walk around in your yard. And I'm not part of this at all. I don't belong here. This is not me. I'm somebody else. And nobody can take that away from you. When you start to buy into it, yeah, I'm a prisoner, I'm locked up, I'm a number, I've been reduced, now you're miserable. So the fact that a person can do all sorts of nasty things and still call himself a chassid, it's a good thing. I mean, he's not right. But the fact that he can do it, that's very good. It's very good. The Rebbe says, who am I? What am I? Well, I used to be a smoker. But now I am a non-smoker. I've changed my identity. And when I change my identity, I'm not going to suffer that I can't have a cigarette. I'm not a smoker. So when you decide that you're going to be good, it's not the result of some miserable process. That's called true regret or tshuva. Tshuva means the person that used to do whatever, eat non-kosher or work on Shabbos, that person doesn't exist anymore. I keep Shabbos. And that happens in a second. I mean, to what degree you keep Shabbos, that's a different story. But who are you? Well, I'm a Shomer Shabbos. When did you become a Shomer Shabbos? 5 minutes ago. That is real bechira, and that's real tshuva. So the Rambam says, a real tshuva means the Eibishter will testify that the person who once sinned doesn't exist anymore. That person's gone. Now there's a different person. What happens to a child who feels guilty is not the particular Aveda. It's interesting too. A kid grows up in a frum environment and then is Machal Shabbos. Doesn't bother him. Doesn't bother him. So how can that be? How can that be? How could you not be upset that you were Machal Shabbos? Part of the answer is, when your kid is keeping Shabbos, does it ever occur to him that he is a Shomer Shabbos? Does he ever introduce himself, hi, my name is Mendel, I'm Shomer Shabbos? No. He doesn't identify himself as a Shomer Shabbos. When he's Machal Shabbos, he doesn't identify himself as a Machal Shabbos. So his identity didn't change. Maybe it should, but it didn't. So he doesn't see the big deal. In some way, our children don't think of themselves as frum. They just are. So when they don't do things that frum people are supposed to do, it doesn't bother them. Anybody else in a different community, oh, you did that. Ah, so you're not frum. And that might bother them. By us, what do you mean I'm not frum? I was frum? I used to be frum? I was never frum. So nothing's changed. Unless a person, a bacher or a girl decides, I am going to stop keeping Shabbos. I'm going to become a Mechalel Shabbos. But then that's what he wants to be. That's his new identity. He's happy. When is this misery supposed to set in? So, your identity can either make you or break you. So a kid does an Aveda, whatever the Aveda is. If he can maintain himself, I am me and I did something terrible, then either he'll do tshuva or he won't do tshuva. He'll apologize, whatever. He will not be miserable. But if he identifies with the sin, I'm ruined, I'm broken, I'm damaged, I'm ugly, that's miserable. That's miserable. It's harder for a boy than for a girl to change identity. It's easier for a woman to identify herself one way and a day later identify herself differently. Where's the proof? You had a maiden name. And then one day, you became Mrs. Somebody. Your identity flipped. And it's perfectly okay with you. It's much harder for a man to do it. So when a bacher feels identified with his Aveda, it's rough. It's much easier to say to a girl, okay, fine, you did the Aveda, now you stop doing the Aveda, you're back to yourself again. Don't identify with the sin. But for both boys and girls, it is so important. It doesn't matter what sin you did, you're still you. And if you're a Lubavitcher, then you're still a Lubavitcher. Okay, you're not a good Lubavitcher, but you're a Lubavitcher. And the proof is, if somebody were to ask the Rebbe, who are your Chassidim? Would he point to you? Yes. So if he thinks you're his chassid, how can you not be? So are you a good chassid? No. You're a lousy chassid. But you're a chassid. I don't know if this is a good example. Your kid comes home from school and says, everybody tells me that I'm ugly. I have an ugly nose. What do you say? No, you have the cutest nose in the world. Look at that perfect little nose. Oh. And the kid knows you're lying because there's a mirror in the house. So what do you say? I'm not sure you have to say it in these words, but basically you have to give the message, I love your ugly nose. In other words, ugly or not ugly, you're still you. You're still my nachas, my angel, whatever. Not because you don't have an ugly nose. So what if you have an ugly nose? You're my ugly nose. Don't change your identity over your nose or anything else. That would give children such a strong defense against things that go wrong, that can go wrong, that usually go wrong. So if a kid comes home and says, the kids, we were playing and we found matches and we burnt down the yeshiva. not that dramatic. But we were playing with matches and we burned something and it caught fire and it did some damage. Oh, that's a terrible thing to do. Does that change your identity? So now you're a pyromaniac? You have a new title in yeshiva now? Now you're the fire boy? You're still you. Kid comes home and says, I was involved in something really not tznius. Not good. But who are you? You're not you anymore? Chassidus says, don't change your identity. Af al pi shechata. You're still a Jewish boy, you're still a chassid, you're still mine, which is the most important part of it all. And don't play with matches no more. Don't go there, don't do that. But if a child becomes identified with the misbehavior, that's misery. That's damaging, that's dangerous. So if we give children a strong identity, then we're protecting them from a lot of misery. One other thing. If children know how to identify right and wrong, not some vague mishmash of guilt and ugliness, and you say to a kid who tells a lie, for example, we're all guilty of this. A kid lies to you, blatantly, and you say to him, "You lie to me?" What message did you just give? That lying is wrong? That lying to me is wrong? And what is wrong about lying to me? Chutzpah? You think I'm so dumb you can lie to me? What message am I giving here? I'm not teaching anything. Be clear. If a kid lies, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong is not allowed to lie. I understand why you're lying. I would probably do the same thing in your position. I mean, come on, you got to defend yourself. So you lie. I understand why. I understand that it takes a little intelligence to come up with that lie. The Rebbe's car was standing on Eastern Parkway, and a car drove by and scraped the side of the car and kept on going. So some Bachrim jumped in their car and they chased the guy down. And they cornered him, they pulled him out of the car, and this off-duty policeman comes by. And he has to do something, but he doesn't want to because it's his free time, he's off duty. So he's very, very annoyed. And he says, "Come on, what's going on here, guy? Just break it up. Everybody just go home." And the Bachrim said, no, this guy is a hit and run. This guy said, "Hit and run? I'm here, you're here. Where's the hit and run? We're both here." I mean, the brilliance of that argument and the chutzpah. So it takes a little brilliance to come up with a good lie. So what do you tell your child when he lies? You try to convince him that it's disgusting how you lie. That's what it is? It's disgusting? Is that the problem? If he was lying to somebody else, it wouldn't be so bad. But to me, that's disgusting. Lying is not disgusting, it's just forbidden. Keep things clear. Don't make everything personal, because then the child takes everything personal. So you don't say to a child who lies, say, are you so dumb you think you can fool me by telling me this narish a lie? Don't make it personal. Everybody lies, and nobody is allowed to lie. So teach what's right or wrong clearly. A child tells a lie, you could say, wow, that's brilliant. That's really smart. But you're not allowed. Tarnished.
Why should he care if he's allowed or not?
You see?
It's a big connection.
That exactly is the whole problem. If we don't teach right from wrong, only disgusting or not disgusting, then you've never really convinced him that there is a right and wrong. He has no moral idea at all. All he knows is, don't upset mom, because she's got a hair trigger temper, and don't be disgusting. Right and wrong, he has no idea what that means. So if he does something that is wrong, he walks away thinking, yeah, I'm disgusting, right? No. You're adorable. But you're not allowed to do that. So this is what happens. If it's not a disgusting thing, if it's not a perverted thing, then what? You're just not allowed. That's all. That's all. You see how bad that is? Oh, so it's just a sin. Oh, okay. Just a sin. You mean I shouldn't do it just because the Eibishter said no? Come on, what kind of reason is that? It's not disgusting. My mother isn't even upset. So how can it be bad? Do you see how bad that is? We haven't taught anything. And that's what's going on in the society around us. In the society around us, nothing is wrong. Nothing is right. It just depends on how people feel. If it hurts somebody, then it's bad. Makes people happy, it's wonderful. Right and wrong? I don't know what you're talking about. We tell our children before they go off to camp, nobody is allowed to touch you inappropriately. That's true, no? It's important. But we're dealing with all the Torah kids. They don't know what inappropriate means. And they can't spell it. So if you tell your kids, nobody should touch you inappropriately. Your kids say, in a what? I never go into appropriate. So inappropriate, I'm never there. By the way, can anybody explain or define what does inappropriate mean? What's an inappropriate touch? In a secular world, there is no definition. It's like a religious word being used by non-religious people. What's inappropriate? How can anything be inappropriate? Who makes it inappropriate? Well, inappropriate means being touched against your will. Against your will, that's inappropriate. Really? Is that what it is? If I don't want it and somebody does it to me, then it's inappropriate? Or it's abuse? What's inappropriate? How do you tell a child, and this is a serious question, how do you tell a child that it's possible that somebody would touch you and you like it, but it's inappropriate? If you like it, is it still inappropriate? We have no definitions. When you tell a child right and wrong, a mitzvah or an avera, what you're telling the child without saying it, what you're telling the child is like this. Treif candies, chol vacuum, taste better than your chol of Yisrael garbage. It does. Better than cream cheese? I don't think so. So when you say to a child, it's chol vacuum, you can't eat it. Did you happen to mention that it also tastes better than the chol of Yisrael? No. Why would you say something like that? That would only encourage him to try the chol vacuum. So you try to give the impression that chol vacuum tastes bad. You probably will choke on it and die. Or certainly get indigestion. Now what's going to happen if, for whatever reason, he eats chol vacuum?
Mythbuster.
And,
It's a mythbuster.
And he doesn't get sick, and it tastes very good. He's so confused. Worse than that, if you tell him you eat chazer, it's so disgusting. Pigs, you see pigs, they're so disgusting. And then he ends up eating something from pork. It really tastes good, smells good. Now, what is he supposed to think? He knows that it's disgusting. It's a pig. And he liked it. Well, that must mean that he is a pig. How depressing is that? So if you want to teach your child right from wrong, you got to tell the truth. You have to say to the child, bacon is people's favorite breakfast because it's delicious, it's easy to make, it's whatever, build it up. The truth. It's the truth. I think Rambam says that pork is the healthiest meat. But one little problem. You're not allowed. Everything you're not allowed is going to taste good. Isn't that true? Everything you're not allowed to do feels good. Isn't that true? In fact, the only reason anyone would ever do a sin is because it feels good. Otherwise, well, you do it l'shma. You do it with Mesiras Nefesh. What do you? You do a sin because it feels good. But if you give the impression to a child, only Mishugayim do sins. Only perverted people. Come on. You're ruining your child. So you have to say to your child, there are pleasures that God wants us to have, And there are pleasures that God doesn't allow us to have. But they are pleasures. Don't give false impressions. So if it's a pleasure, why can't I do it? Because God said no. Now the child is prepared for real life. But if you kind of say, come on, you don't want to eat that, do you? No, you don't. You don't want to run around with girls, do you? No, you're. What do you mean, no? Yeah. But you're not allowed.
Isn't the next step, I'm sorry, asking, but isn't the next, for instance, my mother, my grandmother, they said it was wrong, but the fact that they stuck to it without ever budging from that thing is why I took them seriously. Otherwise, they could tell me something's right or wrong, but if they're not proving it to me. So isn't it
How do you?
really if we will stick to things if they're really right and wrong? That's
Yeah.
what they-
Well, obviously, when you say that something is wrong, that's a serious statement. It's just a sin. Not just. That's it.
Take it so seriously that it doesn't make sense.
Which leads us to another thing. We have to try to understand why there is such a plague of child abuse. And, we can debate endlessly, is there really more of that going on today than it used to be, or is it just that more is being reported? I don't know. It doesn't matter. The point is, why is it going on so much? And what's the solution? There's got to be a solution. You can't just kill off all the offenders. By the way, there's a catch where we get stuck in this whole drama. It is so bad. It is so damaging. It's so harmful to molest a child. What it does to the child is just indescribably harmful and damaging and confusing and blah, blah, on and on and on and on. If we say that, if we push that, if we insist on how horrible it is, will that encourage people to report it? Or will it do the opposite? Big part of the problem is that most children, the vast majority of children who are molested by people who they like, a family member. If you tell them that what these people did is so damaging, it's so harmful, it's so horrible, that whoever did it must be punished severely, they won't report it. They don't want the person punished severely. It's their cousin, their brother, their father, their uncle. Those people who are not relatives, who are not friends, who are not nice, the violent ones, okay, fine. Them you want to prosecute. But what are you doing to the kids, the vast majority of them, who would like to tell you what happened, but if that means that the person is going to be so severely punished, they won't say it. They'll protect them. Another big problem. I don't know what the solution is. Another big problem is, if you convince me that a person who has been molested is so damaged, with a long list of symptoms and disturbances and so on and so forth, and I believe you, it's really, really damaging, then the problem is almost every molester was molested. So if he was molested, then he is so damaged like you just finished describing. Well, if he's so damaged, you really can't blame him. So does he really deserve to be punished? He's the victim. So there are so many contradictions going on. Anyway, so what is one of the contributing causes? There was always child abuse, I'm sure. But there was also a fact of life that you can't just do whatever you want. It was a fact of life, particularly in Russia. Can you do whatever you want? Nothing. Nothing. The government is spying on you all the time. You watch what you say, you watch where you go, you even watch what you think, because they know what you're thinking. So it became a fact of life that just because you think so, just because you want, doesn't mean you can do it. There was this accepted notion that your impulses need to be under control because you're going to get into big trouble. We don't have that anymore. The average person, frum or not, when and where does the average person control his impulses? By eating? There's no control. Talking? No control. You say whatever you want about anybody you want. So the idea that you want something but you can't has become like foreign language. I want it, I do it, I like it, I take it. Smells good, I eat it. Of course we don't eat today, but that's all part of the habit. There's no effort, it's not a self-discipline. And that's why Chassidus says, I don't care how strict you are about keeping kosher, don't eat the extra dessert. The kosher one. Don't eat it. Why? Skafia. What does that mean? It means you can't just take everything you like. You can't just eat whatever. Have a little self-control. Or what they call today impulse control. Because without that, you're going to become a monster. I can't trust you with anything. If we're not disciplined, if we don't get comfortable with the idea, it's okay to want something and not have it. It's okay. It's okay to enjoy something and not be able to enjoy it. It's okay. In most people's minds today, it's not acceptable. But I want it, like children. Well, you can't have that, it's not your toy. But I want it. But I have it, I took it. Yeah, but it's not yours. Doesn't register. So look at how important it is to empower children to be able to say no to themselves. It's so valuable. And it's not repressive, and you're not doing damage to their psyche. You're giving them control over themselves. Not you control them. They control themselves. And it begins in the head. Does it register? Does it make sense to you that you can want something, but you can't have it? That doesn't make sense to you. Isn't that what a Yetzer Hara means? A Yetzer Hara means the desire for things I can't have. So, are you surprised that you have the desire? That's a Yetzer Hara. Are you surprised that you can't have it? That's a Yetzer Hara. A Yetzer Hara means I would enjoy doing what I'm not supposed to. I would enjoy taking what isn't mine. So here are the two crucial points. Point number one. Every Aveda feels good. Every sin is enjoyable. Otherwise, nobody would ever do it. And that's why so few people rebel and fry out, because they weren't allowed to wear shatnez. Nobody ever said, I can't take this anymore. I'm never going to be able to wear shatnez. I'm frying out. Very few people have a taiva for shatnez. The things we have a taiva for are things that feel good, taste good, smell good. That's why we have a taiva for it. And we're not allowed to do it. So a child needs to know, don't be surprised if you do an Aveda and it feels really good. And no matter how good it feels, you're still not allowed. Another story about a guy who comes to a Rav and he says, Rebbe, my son is a meshugener, he's out of his mind, I don't know what to do with him. He dances with women, he eats chazer. He's meshugener. So the Rav said, let me explain something to you. If he danced with the chazer and ate women, that would be meshugener. But dancing with women and eating chazer, tormenisht. He's perfectly sane, but he's doing what you're not allowed. Right? Don't confuse the two. So every Aveda is a sane behavior. People do it because it feels good. You say, well, I can't imagine that feels good. Okay, you have a limited imagination. Why would you want to do that? Try it. Can't understand why girls have to dress non-sneers. What? If it didn't feel good, they wouldn't be doing it. It's not Mesiras Nefesh on their part. So, of course it feels good. You feel free, and you feel cute, and you feel, whatever. Yeah, it feels really nice. Tarnished. I once tried to talk to a group of 12-year-olds in Talmud Torah about premarital sex. They were too immature. There was no way. So I changed the subject. That's what they were studying in school. I was the guest lecturer. I said, okay, forget it. Never mind. Let's talk about extramarital. About married people cheating. All of a sudden, these ridiculously immature, giddy kids become very serious. It's like turning a switch. Everybody became quiet, sitting still. Because the thought that their parents might all of a sudden, whoa. Not that. So we talked about it a little bit, and then I went back to the first topic. I said, so tell me, if it's so wrong that a married person behaves as if he's not married just for one weekend, it's so wrong, then why is it okay for a non-married person to behave as if he is married just for the weekend. Oderahin, oderaher. Is it right or is it wrong? So we tell our children, the Eitz Hadas was very tempting, but it was a chet. Every sin is pleasurable. Secondly, those who do sins are still themselves. A Jew is still a Jew. A woman who does something women are not supposed to do, still a woman. A man does something that men are not supposed to do, he's still a man. You do something I don't want you to do, you're still mine. Don't change your identity to the Aveda. You're much bigger, there's much more to you than the Aveda. We're not afraid of Avedas, we're afraid of the Eibishter. We don't want to lose our connection to the Eibishter. We're not afraid of Avedas. And Aveda is a foolishness. Hasidim are more concerned with Asay Tov than with the Sur Mirah. Make sense? I want to do something. I made a mistake. I did what you shouldn't. All right. But I'm back at work. I'm ready to do another mitzvah. So, there was a woman at Beis Chana many years ago. And this was in the 70s. People were quite immoral back then. She sat a few days in class. She seemed to be enjoying it. And then one day says to me, I have to leave. So what do you mean you have to leave? She said, I don't fit here. I said, what's wrong? What's your problem? She says, I know what I've done. You can't just go from really bad to holy. It can't be. It can't be possible. So I got to go back and kind of be neutral for a while and work. You can't just go from dark to light. It's not right. So that's a misnagdic attitude. A chassid thinks, what's dark? What's dark? It's just the absence of light. So because it was dark, you can't turn on the light. Asay Tov, much stronger than the Sur Mirah. And that's why we are ready for Mashiach. Really? We're ready for Mashiach. You know how many sins we do? Yeah. But sins are temporary. The mitzvahs that we do are permanent. So right now, in this world, there's 5,000 years worth of mitzvahs absorbed into this world. And Avedas, 1 generation. The previous generation, they already paid for their sins. It's erased. It's gone. So we're not intimidated by a sin. We want to do the right thing. We're not victims of sin. Now we need to give children a vocabulary. They need to be able to express themselves. So when you send them off to camp, what are you going to tell them? There are perverts out there who are going to do perverted things to you? Is that your message? And then if something happens, you want them to come home and say, you know those perverts you were talking about? Well, I found one. Or he found me. And we did some perverted things. You want him to say that? He's not going to say that. It's too painful to say that. Too scary. But if you tell your children There are certain things that are tznius, and there are certain things that are not tznius. They already know that there is. One of the things that is not tznius is the physical contact, the physical touching, that can feel good, but it's really not allowed. It's not tznius. So if something happens, your kid will call you up from camp or even write you a postcard. My counselor is not so tznius. He's not afraid to say it. Doesn't scare him. It's a familiar language. If he caught his counselor eating cholovakum, would he be terrified and wouldn't tell you for 10 years? Keep it a secret? Because it's too horrible to talk about? So if he can identify what's going on as not tznius, you've empowered him to speak. You've given him a language that he won't hesitate to talk about, even if he feels completely guilty. Like if he ate some cholovakum, would he be terrified to tell you? So if he did something not tznius, would he be terrified to tell you? You know, last week I did something not tznius. And the fact is, if he can tell you, then he won't be so damaged. If he's terrified to tell you, that's going to be damaging. So the way to help children is to open the door to make sure that they can communicate, that they know what to say. And then they're better protected. So you send them off to camp with just some healthy Yiddish, Chassidish information. That works. It always worked. It will always work. Does that mean he won't be molested? No. But it means that his life won't be ruined by it. That's important. So if your kid comes home and says, somebody was touching me, the way you respond will make all the difference in the world. The fact that you want to kill whoever did it, that's your business. Don't tell the child. The child needs to hear that it was wrong, should never have happened, stay away from that person, and life goes on. That's the attitude you have to show.
And
If you...
It's not their fault.
Hmm?
And it's not their fault.
Even if it is.
I thought they always feel like no matter what, it's their fault.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Even if it's your fault, so what? So you did something wrong. It's not the first time. Like, oh, you did that? Yeah, you're also a liar. You lie to me too. And sometimes you steal things. So, the really damaging part is when the child identifies with it. He becomes it. I'm disgusting. I was involved in something disgusting. And now they have a different opinion about themselves, which is why they might not tell you, because they don't want you to have that opinion. So if a child does come home and tell you, why is he telling you? Because he doesn't know what just happened. He doesn't know what to make of it. By telling you, he's testing. I want to know what just happened to me. I'll tell my mother and watch what happens, and then I'll know. So if the mother and father freak out, then the kid says, oh my God, it really was horrible. If the parents say, really, he did that? Okay, you can't be friends with him anymore. Oh, so that's it? Yeah, that's it. Then you've saved his life. So be careful how you respond and how you react. You tell your child it's not the right thing to do, whatever, and then without making announcements, you go and kill the guy. But don't make that part of your child's problem. The main thing is, summer is a good time. It really is. Summer is when kids are good naturally without being forced. And they're all good. To whatever degree, they're all good. And whatever goodness a kid practices or shows during the summer, that's the real thing. Then you know what the child is all about. There's no reason that a kid shouldn't love learning. Look what happens in the yeshivas kayetz. The same kid who was miserable all year in yeshiva loves learning in yeshivas kayetz. Because the atmosphere is positive. Because it's all part of the fun. Why the yeshivas can't do this all year, I don't know. Because the weather is bad? I mean, is that what it is? Everybody gets depressed? We should all move to Arizona. So the summer is a very good time. And the Rebbe was very much in favor of overnight camps. Because what that can do to a child is amazing. A kid can be a loser for years and years, and then has one positive camp experience, and he's saved. Becomes a mensch. So it's a very, very positive thing. Let me say one more thing about chinuch. I think what you were mentioning about being firm. Gemara says, "Chesach shiftei seine b'nai." If you don't use the rod, then you hate your child. What is this rod? What is this stick you're supposed to beat your kid with? It's not a stick you hit with. The stick, the shevet, means an inflexible piece of wood. There's some wood that is soft and flexible. A shevet means inflexible. When you say what's right or what's wrong, it has to be like an inflexible stick. The worst undermining of a child's life is when you leave him with doubts. If there's doubt, you told him something is bad, but he's not convinced that it's always. There's doubt. That weakens him. That leaves him very vulnerable. That's why I was saying before, when you tell a child you can't lie, it shouldn't be embellished. It shouldn't be changed to something else. It should be as firm, as straight, and as inflexible as a stick. You're not allowed. Nothing else. Because anything else you say opens up possibilities of doubt. A mashpia, first and foremost, has to be inflexible. Otherwise he's useless. To have hashpah, positive moral influence, you have to have an inflexible standard, not be an inflexible person. So that even if you are a very soft, flexible person, but it's not allowed. It's not allowed. I wish it was. I wish you could wear that outfit. But it's not allowed. That gives children enthusiasm, not the opposite. When a kid knows something for sure, he's enthusiastic about it. When there's some doubt, it drains all the all right, so I'll do it because I probably should. There's no excitement there. There's no enthusiasm. So although we should be very flexible in our judgment, but right and wrong can't be flexible. It's got to be consistent, firm, absolute, no room for doubt. It is wrong.
So does there have to be a line between those right and wrongs and, say, eating on the couch or bringing food in the room, or how do we define what?
Yeah, house rules can have their doubts. You're not supposed to eat on the couch, usually. Unless you're really careful. Unless we're having guests. That's okay. You don't have to be firm about your rules. You have to be firm about the Eibishter's rules. And then you have to be flexible about your opinion. I'm completely consistent, firm, unyielding, unchanging, uncompromising. Lying is wrong. And when my kid lies to me, I think it's cute. I think it's cute. But it is so wrong. So for myself, no, you see, that's exactly, on the contrary, it makes it so much more firm. It's like, you're not allowed to lie. Everybody lies, and it's so much fun, and you're not allowed to lie. And it's so cute, you came up with that ridiculous excuse. That is so cute, but you're not allowed to. See, the more you say, doesn't bother me, I think it's cute, but that strengthens it. But you're not allowed. Somebody once described the Rebbe. He said the Rebbe is a dictator and very sympathetic. I said, how can you be a dictator and very sympathetic? He says, he's a dictator because he won't budge on his principles. But he's very sensitive. He understands people's weaknesses. So I understand your weakness. I can tolerate your weakness. You're a schlemazel, you're an idiot, but I love you. But you're not allowed to sin. But you're not allowed to sin. You know, this classical story. Beis Chana, I was telling a story about Reb Mendel Futerfas. When he came out of jail, he came out of whatever. He was back in Moscow. And on Shabbos afternoon, he was walking to shul, and he sees a familiar face getting off the bus. And he looks closely, and he realizes this is a guy who used to be a Rosh Yeshiva. Not a Lubavitcher. But now he doesn't have a beard, he doesn't have a hat, he's getting off the bus on Shabbos. So he goes over to him, and they recognize each other. And Mendel says to him, Shabbos. He says, no, I bought the ticket before Shabbos. And Mendel says, Shabbos? So he says, no, the bus stopped anyway. It didn't stop just for me. It stops. Mendel says, Shabbos. He said, you don't understand. The KGB called me. I have to go. Handel said, Shabbos. He wouldn't be, Shabbos. So there was a woman in class. She heard the story. She was blind. And she went home. And she went to a bakery for challah before Shabbos. And she hears one of the customers asking the owner, when will you have fresh, pastries on Sunday? He said, early in the morning. And the customer said, really, when do you bake it? He says, on Shabbos. So the customer said, but I thought this was a kosher bakery. He said, it is kosher, we just don't keep Shabbos. So this woman said, Shabbos? So the guy said, no, there's no other time. I mean, we have to, we can't. She says, Shabbos? So he said, no, the rabbi who gives us the hechsher said it was okay. She said, Shabbos. And this went back and forth, and she just stuck to the. A couple of weeks later, the store was Shemer Shabbos. Had she said anything else, anything more, it wouldn't have had that effect. They would have had a discussion. Is it okay to be kosher but not Shomer Shabbos? Maybe not, maybe yes. Nothing would have changed. She didn't budge. So it had an effect.
What do you do when it's on the line, like the sneeze thing? If they stand and don't move, they sneeze, but they walk for the slightest little thing. So I mean, to me, it's simply easier to go a few inches more than you can kind of be comfortable. But they always say, oh no, I'm going to be careful. Because girls in their teens are not careful. So I mean, she starts out technically, so I can't say she's not sneezed at that moment. I'm just saying, how can you be, live and not have to be so careful? But you're not, I know they're not going to be careful, so I don't know what to do, because she's technically.
So, yeah. What is it about this generation? I know everybody thinks their generation is the worst, that they're all right. And we're right too. This is the worst generation there ever was. Not the worst generation there will ever be, because the next generation is going to be worse. but we are so far the worst generation there ever was. It's true. What are we supposed to do about that? There is an attitude which really is frightening. The attitude is, since we're a generation that is not so, we're not so holy, we're not so spiritual, we're not so this, people are not really ready to do so we have to lower the standards. Or in different words, we have to find a form of Yiddishkeit that works for the people. That is wrong for two reasons. First of all, Yiddishkeit doesn't have to work for you. You have to work for Yiddishkeit. Secondly, it's not true that this generation is less able or less willing to do what needs to be done. It's the opposite. We've been told, and we've learned this over and over again, the lower you go, the closer you get to the emes. That's why the Yerida is not only going to end up being an aliyah, But the Yerida itself is part of the Aliyah. It's like for example, in the olden days, people were very strong individuals. They weren't influenced by peer pressure. Today, kids are influenced easily. The positive side of that is, in the olden days, if you wanted to get somebody to do something really noble, it was very difficult because they were so stuck in their way. And their way was good, but they were stuck in it. Like the Alter Rebbe told this chassid to become a balagola, and he ate his heart out over it. He got sick over it. He was a Talmud Chacham. Why should he be a balagola? Until his wife showed him what it means to obey a Rebbe. And it embarrassed him that he didn't feel that way, he didn't think that way. Today, it is so much easier for a chassid to go and do what the Rebbe said. You know why? Because he's got nothing better to do. He's not giving up anything. So you can say, well, you see, we're the worst generation. Yes, and that's why we are capable of the most. We have no hang-ups. We're not going to wait to do a mitzvah because we don't feel like we have Ahavas Hashem enough. In the olden days, that was a problem. They worked on Ahavas Hashem. And until they got that straight, they were paralyzed. We, thank God, have no Ahavas Hashem. It's not a problem. We're never going to have any Ahavas Hashem. So we're ready to do whatever. It happens to be that because the talents of our neshama is missing, the neshama itself takes over. And when the neshama itself takes over, we can do anything. In fact, we want to do what earlier generations were afraid to do. If you say, for example, to the average Jew today, do the mitzvah because the Eibishter wants it, because the Eibishter needs it. It's not even about you. They're so inspired by that. In the olden days, if you said to a chassid, a real chassid, a deep chassid, do the mitzvah because the Eibishter wants you to, he would get depressed. If I do the mitzvah, will it really be because the Eibishter wants, or does my Yetzer Hara get in the way and I'm really doing it for myself because I want? And it was a problem. To do what the Eibishter wants or needs is so noble, it's so selfless, it's so that even the big tzaddikim were not capable of that. They were doing it because they were tzaddikim. To get past that and just do it because the Eibishter wants, wow, that was like only Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Today, if you tell somebody, do a mitzvah, your Yetzer Hara will be weakened and your Nefesh Elikis will be strengthened and you're going to become a better person and you're going to... leave me alone. You say, but the Eibishter wants. Now you're talking. Because the only koyach I have, the only talent I am left with is him. For me, I have no talents. So we are actually capable, and particularly the next generation, is capable of doing magnificent things that a generation ago would have had a hard time even imagining. Like, for example, how do we think about the Rebbe? What do you feel about the Rebbe? What is your iskashus to the Rebbe? How does the Rebbe affect your life? What is it? Oh, it's such a messy, complicated. Who is Makusha? Who's not Makusha? Who, you know? The next generation that's growing up now, the bar mitzvah boys and girls, they have such a healthy relationship with the Rebbe. Oh, the Rebbe said, then let's do it. Does that mean you're Makusha? What? A what? What's a Makusha? They have no hang-ups. You say the Rebbe always wants people, okay. You're a Makusha. No, I'm not. I'm just doing what the Rebbe said. It is so clean. It's so innocent. And it's because they never saw the Rebbe. So their lack actually empowers them to do more. Because those who knew the Rebbe, saw the Rebbe, they have opinions. Messy. These kids, I think that's what it means, that the children were the first ones to say, Ze Keli V'Yanveo. Why? Because they were not complicated. They didn't know enough to be confused. They didn't know enough to mess up and have their own opinion. So when they saw the Eibishter, they said, oh, that's the Eibishter. It's beautiful. So this notion that we have to expect less is simply wrong. It's wrong. We're not capable of less. Make any sense? If you say, well, look, just do the mitzvahs that you really feel motivated. I'm not motivated. Don't even go there. The Eibishter needs. All right, now you're talking. So it has the opposite effect. If we demand less, we get nothing. If we demand the top, you get it. You get it. So one cute little story. We were sitting by a party, and one of these beggars came over, asking for money. Rabbi Krinsky was sitting with one of his grandchildren on his lap. The guy came over, so he took out $1 to give to this, to the collector. This 1.5-year-old, 2-year-old baby sees the $1 and says, Rebbe. He went for dollars. The only thing he knows about dollars is that $1 you get from a Rebbe. So when he sees $1, he says, Rebbe. Children have a clear vision. No adult ever had that reaction to $1. Even the adults who got so many dollars from the Rebbe, packs of dollars, they see $1, it's $1. And they might think, oh, 1 second, is that a Rebbe dollar? It's $1. Is it a Rebbe dollar? But by children, what's $1? It's Rebbe. It's really encouraging that the next generation has no problems with emes. They're much better at it. So if we demand the highest standards, we'll probably get more than if we try to get minimum standards. And that applies particularly to tznius. We've taken the low road. We've reduced tznius to an inch one way or the other. we've reduced tznius to a button. We're not going to get anywhere this way. You've got to go to the top. What is tznius? Not what constitutes tznius. What is it? What is it? What's good about it? And if you listen, all these kids who are having a problem with tznius, they're telling you exactly what their problem is, and we don't listen. What they basically say is, fine, I'll button it. So what? It's a very good question. If you button your button, everything's wonderful. Why? What? What?
That's what the question does. Really, this inch or this button makes the difference to the Eibishter?
Yes,
That's what they're asking.
exactly. And it's such a good question.
That's what a woman measure by its, I mean, a chassid measure by its tznius, a Jew measure by its tznius. They're asking it, so.
Because they don't even know what it means.
A person invites the tznius.
Okay, so I think if that word was not so poisoned already, the word tznius, if you would say to somebody, you know, I met this girl, this woman, she's really amazing, she's so smart, she's so tznius, she's no... This girl who doesn't want to be tznius will understand what you're saying and will appreciate it. Right, she's tznius, wow. But then you say, but your skirt is not tznius. What? An incha hin, an incha he? So if you're talking about being tznius, they understand it. I say, yeah, that's good. I mean, come on. A woman who is tznius is a lot better than a woman who's not. But then you get into this button, and they say, come on. So, what really is tznius? Tznius has to do with identity, not with skirts. What am I and who am I? If I'm not tznius, then nobody is going to be interested in who I am. So it works kind of backwards. Girls who are not tznius is because they want to show who they are, not just follow all the rules like everybody else. Problem is, it works the opposite way. When you're not tznius, nobody will ever know who you are. Because you've drawn attention to who you're not. So, what's wrong with knees and elbows? Nothing. That's why you shouldn't be known for your knees and elbows. So to put it in vulgar terms, a girl who's not dressed tzniusdik and has a conversation with a group of boys and they all walk home, what are they thinking? They're thinking, she has knees and she has elbows. See, now they know who she is. It gets in the way. What you see with your eye does not allow you to understand and know a person. Because the eyes only see things, and a person is not a thing. The more you see someone, the less you know them. Oh, you know things about them. The color of their eyes, their hair, their size. You don't know them. Eyes can't see them. Eyes can only see things. And that's why tznius means not this inch or that inch. Tznius means there's nothing to see. If you're interested in me, talk to me. Know me. Get to understand me. There's nothing to see. Untznius means there's something to see. And that takes you into a direction that you don't really want to go. So imagine, you even say to an intelligent girl, you're not sneeze, you're really fun to look at, you're really attractive, you look beautiful, and some guy is going to marry you because you look beautiful. And 10 years later, you're going to complain because he has no idea who you are. That's the way it works. I was said to a Beis Rivka girl who was at Beis Chana, and she was terribly, purposely not tzniusdik. I mean, horribly. Even the Freie girls who were there were shocked by how untznius she was. And she was wearing something really bad, some pink something. And I decided I'm not going to say anything. Because what am I going to say? She already knows everything. We repeat the same, do whatever you want. But this one time, I went over to her and I said, you look so good in pink. I think that's your color. But it's the wrong size. It's the right color. It's perfect, but it's the wrong size. They want to be tznius. They don't know what it is. And they know what it's not. It's not a button. Tznius is not a button. And tznius is not an inch. But if there's anything a girl wants more than anything else, it's to be heard and understood. She likes to be looked at and complimented. Yeah, but that's not what she really wants. Only she thinks that if she attracts attention with the eyes, if a boy will look at her, then he'll get to know her. It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work. And that's why the Eibishter doesn't let us see him. Wouldn't it be inspiring to see the Eibishter? It would. But then we would never get to know him.
How do you convey that message?
Exactly like that.
Sitting them down and giving them a lecture is not really helpful.
No, you don't give lectures. Just for example, you can sit by the table and say, you know, what's her name? I was talking to her the other day. She's so unhappy. I mean, she's married, she has a nice house, children, a husband, but she's so unhappy because her husband doesn't really understand her or know her. So why did he marry her? Because she was cute. She was gorgeous. Enough said?
It's usually like they see someone who let's say they're not necessarily tznius, but they happen to have a very good relationship with their husband, and it's a very like deep relationship. How do you explain to them then? Like,
first of all, we don't know. You can't tell from the outside whether they have a good relationship or not. But also, you could get away with it. You could luck out. But that's despite the fact that you were not tznius, not because you were not tznius. That certainly didn't help. So some people outgrow the untznius part and become a mensch. There's no guarantee. So it's a risk that isn't worth it. Particularly when you're not marrying the guy. You're not marrying him. So why do you want him to be impressed with you? even the non-Jewish world, the world that produces all this immodesty, has now recognized that it's destroying relationships. Nobody gets personal anymore. Everything is on the surface. There's nothing personal. You look good, I'm interested. You don't look good, I'm not interested. Somebody looks better, I'm more interested. It's not personal. I don't know who you are, and if I dump you and go with another woman, how much is it going to hurt you? I don't know. I can't be bothered. It's not personal. Don't take it personal. You got old, you know. You're not as pretty as you used to be. So it's so cold. It's so, and even between parents and children, there's a coldness. So what if she's my mother? I have my life. She has her life. There's no connection. There's no bonding. The lives don't touch each other. And people are very miserable because we do need to make connections. And this lack of tznius is preventing any real contact, any real connection. I don't know if this makes sense, but a guy says, I'm getting divorced. I'm getting divorced. I've had it. I don't need this. So the first time I heard that expression, I said, you're divorcing her because you don't need this? You were married to her, not to this. Now you're divorcing her because you don't need this? Do you need her? It was like a new thought. He had never thought of that. He needed it. He needed to be married to a good-looking woman. Now he doesn't need it. So, she's out. So wait a minute. She's a human being. Never thought of her. I'm just thinking about it, and I don't need this. You see how impersonal. And that's what immodesty does. That's what we define as pornography. Pornography means looking at a person because you want it, not her. That's pornography. People without personalities, people without heads. No people, just it. I think most teenagers can understand that. Because really, what does a teenager want? Me. Know me. Do you hear me? Do you get me? Do you accept me for who I am? Well, I would, because I would accept you for who you are, but I have no idea who you are. You're cute, but that's about it. I don't know who you are. So it's much bigger than, you save yourself for your husband. Only your husband gets to see your hair. First of all, what makes him any more privileged than anybody else? And secondly, when does he get to see your hair? So who invented that? Baba Maisa. Why do you cover your hair? My hair is only for my husband. Really? Who made that up? And we all say it. And everybody says, oh, wow, that's beautiful. that's so special. Tznius means only your husband can be unsneous with you. Come on, it's so shallow. It's amazing that every teenager gets it. They really do. And they're right. What are you talking? This is tznius? They know that something's missing. They're so disappointed. There's got to be more to tznius than this. And if this is tznius, then I'm not interested. If you're going to stand there with a yardstick and measure my skirt, no, I'm sorry, I'm not interested in this. Real tznius, I would love. Like that classroom in the top. You think you ask this teenager, what if your mother unbuttoned? Ugh! That's disgusting. Why? Imagine your mother was not so tzniusdik. What? That's horrible. So what's going on here? Because when you talk about your mother's tznius, you're not talking about a button, you're talking about her. My mother not tznius? Are you kidding? That would be horrible. And they don't mean the button. They mean the real thing. Because their mother is really tznius, not a button. By the way, if by the mother her tznius is a button, everybody's in trouble. This one girl said, my mother is so stupid. She's crazy. She makes such a big deal about a button. She's nuts. I said, you're right. It's just a button. So just button it. She said, no. You're as mashuggy as your mother. It's just a button, right? So if to the mother, tznius is her button, you're not teaching tznius. So what I'm saying is that these girls who don't want to be tznius, I'm not talking about the ones who fried out completely. They just don't want to be tznius. They're right. They want something better, not less. They don't want less. They want something better. And we're not giving them. So they rebel.
They want to feel elegant and that they look good. And it could be tznius or not tznius.
But there's something they want much more than that. Yeah, everybody wants to look good. That's not a serious thing, even for them. They want something else much, much more. And nobody talks to them about it, and nobody makes a big deal about it, so they're left with a skirt, a button.
So you're saying it's who you are, who that child is,
It's very interesting that by Matan Torah, the Eibishter says to Moshe, gather all the people by Har Sinai and tell them that tomorrow or whatever, I'm going to speak to you and they should listen. Moshe goes and tells the people, what did they say? They said, oh, Ritzeinenu lireis es malkeinu. We don't want to hear the Eibishter talking to you. We want to see the Eibishter himself. Moshe goes back to the Eibishter and says, the people said that they want to see you. The Eibishter said, that is very, very nice. But no. Tell them to listen. And we heard. We didn't see. It's very nice that we want to see him. We should always want to see him. But it's not a good thing. Here, the Eibishter wants to be heard, not seen. Would it inspire us if we saw him? Yeah, for about a month. If we don't see him, then we can spend 2,000 years trying to understand him. and we don't get tired. So if you want a long-term marriage, and the marriage should remain interesting and fascinating, then there's nothing to see. You want to know? There's always going to be more to know. See? You see what you see, and that's all there is to see. How many times you want to see it? So seeing has a built-in flaw. It only takes in the external, the surface. It doesn't let you know. So that's why the Torah says, Adam and Chava, how does it describe their relationship? Adam knew Chava, and she got pregnant. Not he saw her, he knew her. Teenagers want to be known more than they want to be seen. You read their diary. Don't tell them, but you read their diary. What is it they talk about? What is the theme over and over and over? Nobody understands me. That's their biggest pain. Nobody understands me. So that's going to be fixed by wearing a short skirt? Of course not. So raise the standards as high as you can go. They'll be much more interested. Lower the standards, they lose all respect and they don't care. So don't underestimate this generation. We have no shtick left, so we just want to do everything right. And we can, because we have no shtick left.
Like Sneers also, we could tell them we do it because Hashem wants us this way. These are the rules of Hashem.
You can take it a step further. Do it the way Hashem does it. He doesn't want to be seen. It's His way. It's not just His demand. That's how He is. He wants to be known. He's a teenager. He's a permanent teenager. All he wants is to be known. So he tells us about himself. Everything, but doesn't let you see him. You want me? Listen to me. Hear me. Understand me. Know me. Sure, you'll get excited if you see me, but then that'll be the end. So if that's how the Eibishter is, we should be like that too.
How do we even get to know, like, our children, our spouses, instill in our children how to actually get to know people? Because it's almost like the whole, I don't know, it seems like people are, even that's a skill.
It is. It is.
Like, is there a risk
You
that,
know,
like,
people would go into Yechidus and they would come out and they were so thrilled. And as Chassidim, we always expect that Rebbe said something, that Rebbe So we would stand and wait for people to come out of Yechidus and say, what did it ever say? And we were very disappointed. Not much. He listened. And they're in heaven. They come out of Yechidus, they're like in heaven. What did it ever say? Not really much. So what are you so excited about? He heard me. He looked at me and he, so what does the Rebbe know about them now? I don't know. But he heard. And it for people who are never heard, this is like going to heaven. He really listened. Yeah, but what did he say? Nothing. Me, yeah, he told me good evening. But what were they so excited? What inspired them? What lifted them up? What gave them that glow? He listened. It is a talent. So if you listen to your teenager, you listen, like really listen. And then the teenager says, so now do you understand me? Not really. You make less sense than I thought. Now that I've been listening, I'm totally confused. I have no idea who you are. Doesn't matter. You listened. Makes all the difference in the world. You really listened. You didn't get it, because there's nothing to get. I mean, they basically don't have a personality. So, they think they have this deep whatever. They're teenagers. But you listened. You get the prize.
What about when they're not speaking?
Huh?
What about when they're not speaking?
What about it? You mean they refuse to talk to you?
They refuse, but they're not.
Well, that's what happens, because if we don't listen, they eventually don't stop trying.
For a few years.
They go looking for somebody else to hear them. Yeah. Who's going to hear them? Yeah. This Chassidish boy came home from a summer, and he told his parents that he met a girl, and they like each other, they've been in contact, and they're planning to get married. Not this year, not next year, but they're planning. How would you react? Your kid comes home and says, I met a girl, I met a boy, we're talking, he's so nice, I want to marry him. Now you can say, that's not how a Chassidish girl, no, this is terrible, and who is he? I'll call his mother and his father, and I'll break, taking away your computer, you never talk to him again. You can do that. Or you can say, really? What do you like about him? Open up the conversation. What do you like about him? Not critically, not like, yeah, what do you like about him? Find out. What do you like? What are you enjoying? What do you think? What kind of person is it? Help him develop a sane attitude towards a girl. Say, oh, you met a girl. Okay, good. Now you know what a girl is? You see what, yeah. You're going to marry her? What, the first girl you met? You don't have to marry her. But treat it menschlich, and you'll get a menschlich reaction. Aren't you interested in knowing what your son thinks of girls? Shouldn't you be interested? Obviously, you're not going to agree to anything he says because his opinion of girls is kind of teenage. But shouldn't you take an interest and want to hear what he's thinking? And guide him a little bit? Say, well, that sounds like a nice girl, but she sounds to me a little bit pushy. Sounds to me that you would probably like a different kind of girl more because it's more... Be intelligent about it.
Put aside all the fear,
Hmm?
all our fears, put them aside before we can.
First, you put up... And also, he feels terribly guilty. So he feels like he is supposed to marry her. At least then it's not so bad. So you have to let him know. You don't have to marry her. First of all, you don't have to marry everybody you like. Yeah, she's nice, you like her, so you have to marry her. And secondly, you don't have to marry her because you really weren't supposed to talk to her in the first place, and if it's not going to end up being a marriage, then it's just grub, and yeah, it's just grub.
By asking this question and getting into it, you're not letting her like, it's okay to talk to boys, or it's okay to talk to...
It's not?
Like, what do you like about him? What do you...
And it's not okay?
He looks gorgeous, he's smart, so, I mean... What
It
now?
wasn't okay in our generation, but now it's okay.
I'm not sure what was...
Doesn't that make it okay if I ask them?
No, so what now? So it's okay, so your mom agree with it, I mean... So I can continue to talk to him and...
The question is... It's done. Now which way do you go?
What? It's gone, it's done.
Which way do you go? You can say, stop talking to her. Oh, then he's going to stop. Probably not.
No.
Probably
No,
not.
But you're explaining why not good, I don't know. I mean,
What you're doing is you're bringing down the excitement. Okay, so you talk to a girl. So is she nice? What's the big deal? The reason you don't talk to a girl is not because talking to girls is so exciting. You met a girl, you talked to her, so... His Beis Rivka girls once said, why can't we talk to boys? I said, really? That is so sad. You can't talk to them. They're so stupid. You can't talk to a boy. They don't talk. They're crazy. It's not, you shouldn't be talking to boys. You can't talk to boys.
so what is it?
They're not intelligent enough to have a conversation with them. So you don't really talk to boys. You flirt with boys. Now, you have to, what is it called? Deflate. You talk to a girl. You talk to a girl, so? So what? Yeah, you're not supposed to. Now you see why? But be a mensch. In fact, it wouldn't be such a terrible idea if at a certain age, every boy was told to sit down and talk to a girl. They would lose interest immediately. Really? I have to? Yeah. Okay. We allow it to become such a big deal. What? So you talk to a girl, so what? You talk to her. What did you say? What did she say? Baba Meises. Oh, you like her. She's nice. What's nice about her? Yeah, that's pretty nice. Yeah, you have good taste in girls. No? So, don't let it become a monster. Will that encourage him to talk to girls? First of all, he obviously doesn't need your encouragement. He manages on his own to talk to girls. So it's not that you're going to encourage it. On the contrary, you're going to take all the excitement out of it. Okay, so you talk to a girl. You thought if you talk to a girl, you're going to be... Okay, so you talk to her. So it's done. Huh? So...
About the listening, people go back. How can we listen in a way that the person feels like they're heard? And that if you listen to every kid and every husband, you'll be listening all day, all night, and you're not... What is this?
How many teenagers do you have?
Even the small ones. Heard.
They don't take up so much time. They don't have so many theories about everything. They say, "Ella boo boo." You say, "Oh, that's it, good enough." You've heard them. They feel connected, understood. It doesn't take much.
So the teens and the husbands can get together.
It doesn't take much. And the more you listen, the less you have to listen. They don't need constant reassurance. They know you're there. They know you'll listen, so that they don't need to talk to you so much. It's when they're not sure, they have to always come up with something. Maybe this time you'll listen.
So it's empathy, you're saying.
When your child tries to talk to you, just focus. Don't be a genius. Don't analyze. Don't get to understand the deepest parts of her. Just focus. You're there. You're listening. Don't be on the phone. Don't interrupt. And that will give them a firm identity, a place. They know they belong here. Then they're not so crazy about what's going on out there. It's not so complicated.
I wasn't clear what you thought was the reason why there's such a big tznius epidemic, or what was your reason, what you thought about it? I wasn't clear what you...
All right, so I was talking about why there's such an epidemic of child abuse.
What?
I was talking about why there's an epidemic of...
About tznius, why do you think that so many girls don't really care nowadays? Like why do you think they're doing that?
Because we did not teach them what tznius really is, and the external message is disappointing. So what? What are you making such a big deal? And they're right. If it's not about tznius, if it's just about a button.
So we didn't teach them why it's really important? We didn't tell them the truth? What we didn't?
No. We just assumed that they would be.
The schools don't explain why it's so important?
No.
She had to pay $3
Close it,
for the
close it,
button was closed.
Mhm.
They don't explain like the basis of why it's so important? Why not?
Because they don't know.
They don't know?
Because their mothers never told them. It was just assumed. So for a number of generations, they assumed it, and it was.
And it worked.
Huh?
And it worked.
It worked. But nobody actually could explain it. Now that we need to explain it, nobody knows.
So I have to do something. So if a girl got like a girl going like very sure something like that, you're not supposed to tell anything about it, or, I mean, no, I'm saying, it's not about the button, it's not about this, but what is it about? What I have, do I have to tell something or not?
You've told them, and the school told them, and everybody tells them. Telling them again is going to help?
That's the problem, that's what told the school telling me.
So why doesn't the
That's
school
why I
get
don't
to
wanna
the
do
source
opposite.
you know, why it's so important to students?
They're starting to. They're starting to, because for a long time they thought if they just crack down and become more punish more or whatever, stricter, it'll work. Now they realize it's not going to work.
It's not working, I mean.
It's not working and it's not going to. So now they're rethinking, like, really, what's...
So what are we doing with the schools?
So the teenagers are actually forcing us to get better, to look deeper.
But why is that different than anything else? It's just, things are black and white. You were saying before that people, they have to know what's right and wrong. It is a matter of buttons sometimes. It's not everything, but it is right or wrong. So where are your standards?
But we don't treat it that way. We don't treat it that way.
If you could, I mean,
That would probably
it's
help.
possible to do
Yeah,
so.
that would probably help too. If we would simply say, like you say, that's milchik, you're fleishik.
Right, without the emotions.
Without the emotions. If you would say, that button should be closed. But you don't. You get all,
Right, but if you could,
if you could.
but
Yeah.
it's right or wrong.
Yes? So if you could treat it that way, for most people it would probably work.
What about teenagers who feel that they're judged? My theory is if you don't want to be judged, just don't walk down Kingston Avenue that way. But
Yeah, I know.
I mean, if you walk that way,
Yeah.
you know people
It's-
are going to look at you.
Right.
So what are you thinking? Like,
Right, it's like all these very immodest women, and they walk down the street and say, what are you looking at? What's the point of dressing like that if nobody's going to look? So,
somebody has pink hair, they want you to look.
right,
They're not doing it.
right, but then they say,
Like you're telling me.
stop looking at me.
Yeah.
Because you see, they really want to be known.
So what do you say when
They resent the fact that you look at them when they make you look at them. You should be able to see past this and get to really know me in spite.
what do you say?
What do you mean, what do you say?
What do you say when a child says, you know, people are just judging me? Why does everybody have to judge me? I mean, you're intelligent. What are they thinking?
But you see, again, they're right. Why are you judging me? Why are you deciding that I am an empty, brainless, because I dress this way? Can't you get to know me and realize that I'm not? So it's all the same. And they're right that instead of just telling them, like, this is milchik or this is fleishik, you are judging them. You're immediately judging them. And we all do that. I mean, how can you not judge your kid if you find them on the computer with pornography? Would you say, no, stop that, you're not allowed to look at that? It's milchik. No. As soon as you see your kid on the computer, oh, my kid is a pervert, he's a lowlife, I don't know what happened. Why are you judging him like that?
But you would tell them that it's wrong.
Yeah. You can't. You see, that's the point. You're so emotional about it, you can't even say it's wrong. You turn purple and you... If you saw him eating a chalavakam ice cream, you'd have a completely different reaction. whenever it comes to tznius matters, we immediately judge. It's not even about the mitzvah anymore. So the Rebbe once told, they asked the Rebbe how to teach those parts of the Chumash that are rather adult content. How do you teach it to kids in Cheder? The Rebbe says you teach it exactly as it says, if you can say it in the same tone that you say everything else. But if you're going to use a different tone, then don't do it. Why can't you just talk about it like you talk about everything else? On the 5th day of the Chanukah Habayis of the Mishkan, the carbon was brought by the Shevet this, and the head of the Shevet was Nesanel ben whatever. And if a man is sleeping with a woman, he should. Why can't you say it with the same tone? This is Torah, this is Torah, you're learning a Pasuk Chumash. What is your problem? Oh, no, this is like... Say it. Tell your kid who is watching pornography and say, tarnished. Well, you can't do it. You can't. You immediately react by, what is wrong with my kid? He's a pervert. He's too young. It's a computer, and there's a picture, so he's looking. What do you want to say about that? What is wrong with you? There's nothing wrong with him. There's absolutely nothing wrong with him. This guy says, "Doctor, I get up in the morning and I look in the mirror, I get very dizzy and nauseous. What's wrong with me?" The doctor says, I don't know what's wrong with your stomach, but your eyesight is perfect. What you see in the mirror is nauseating. So what's wrong with a kid who's looking at pictures of naked ladies? What's wrong? Nothing wrong. His eyesight is perfect. What's wrong? You know what's wrong? That's what's wrong. But it's not wrong with your kid.
Is there something specific I should do to ease my child out of this real big fear he has of making mistakes, or is that going to fall away? Like you were saying about how they perceive things as an identity, or like if he says, "Oh, can I, use that ice?" and I say, "Not on Shabbos," he goes, "Oh, I was just joking." Like he has this huge fear about. He completely disassociates from anything,
So which way should you go with that? Just, I'm guessing that the way to do that is to say, "Yeah, I once did that." Whatever it is about ice on Shabbos or whatever. "Yeah, I once did that, and then somebody told me you're not allowed, so..."
Take the fear out of why he thinks it's so bad.
Yeah, that you can do it, and then find out you're not supposed to, so you don't. But he'll probably outgrow it anyway, so...
Do you wait for the kids to bring it up? Like we were by the Target, we had to get garbage bags, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" The billboards are so when you leave Crown Heights, if you're here for a long time, once you go out, you're like, "Well, I haven't left Crown Heights in so long." If my kid were in the car, we were driving down, what do you wait for them to be like, "Whoa," or do you what, or "Close your eyes, look at it"? What do you? How do you wait for them to say something, or do you say something first? That awkward silence in the car, I mean, also just along the same lines, my daughter was getting her haircut and there was like a radio station. I'm like, oh my gosh, like every other word out of the person's mouth. I was like, this is, so I started talking really loud. And I just kept, every time I would anticipate they would talk about, I was like, hi, I'm like, the lady got her hair, kept looking at me, and I was like it was really like, so.
There's this button on the dashboard that actually turns
this was
off.
at the hair cutting place, and I was like, and I felt like she wasn't turning it off because she could tell how uncomfortable I was when she cutting the hair. But then the billboard thing, it's like, do you wait for them to say something, or do you say something first?
If you can think of something to say, you should say it first.
What would you say?
What would you say? Depending on the age, of course.
Like 8 years old. It was like younger before they know exactly what's going on.
So you point out, like you would anything else. So you see that? They are obviously not sneers. Look how not sneers that is.
Really? Right. But then they'll go, that's disgusting.
Who?
Like kids will be like, because they're trained in this way of like sneers, then all of a sudden they're like, oh, that's disgusting. And then there's like that, that whole like liberal voice in my mind to say like, no, it's not disgusting, and there's some people, and that's the way God, there's like, I don't know, all of a sudden I'm like, I feel like some like, you know what I'm saying, like some like, what's that, because there's that balance that, because now we're all told like, don't make your kids think that, anything's disgusting, but then somehow they think it's,
Why would you even point it out? Like when we grew up, we would be ashamed if anyone would catch us looking. Like between us siblings all sitting in the back
out
of
the
the
window
car.
as you're driving down Flatbush Avenue.
Yeah, like if
I don't know.
first of all, the billboards are up higher, so you have to
In
look.
the store windows.
What they look
And
and they see.
we wouldn't want each other to catch us looking. We grew up without looking up out of the
We
shame
look like
because we knew it was wrong, and that's it.
If a kid says that's disgusting, you say obviously nobody taught them about sneers. Which means you're not really disagreeing that it's disgusting, but you're saying, no, it's a lack of education.
Right. Okay.
It's something that has to be diffused while at the same time rejected. So imagine you catch your kid looking at pornography on the computer. If you could, I know this is hard, if you could, you walk over and you say, what, you're looking at naked ladies over there? That would be so good. What are you doing? You're looking at naked ladies?
The concept of Shmir Sinai, we see it in the Sikhs. I mean, isn't that like putting the tznius in its place in terms of how you look at things and like elevating their child, that they could also protect their eyes? It's a choice. I can be above that. Isn't that?
You could be above that?
I'm just saying, like, to imbue that. Of
Mm.
course, they're not, right?
Part of being above it means big deal. So you saw a naked lady. So big deal.
If they're doing it privately but you know about it, how do you bring it up to them? You can't just like go over and say, I know that you're doing, like, what do you do?
It's always good to tell a story about somebody. I have a friend. Or, if you know that they're doing it, walk in. Not walk in and catch them. Walk in and say, oh, what are you looking at? What's so interesting? Oh, naked ladies. Yeah. You're really not supposed to. They're not being tznius and you're looking at them.
You do the same thing if, say, someone was watching a movie on one of the tiny little things, how would you?
Wouldn't it be good to be able to say to, let's say, a 16-year-old boy, you're still interested in what girls look like? Still? That's for 10-year-olds. So diffuse it.
It's just a show. There's nobody that's nice. You're just watching a crime drama or something. I mean, do you make a big deal about such a thing, or? I mean, I don't even know if it's technically. No, you can't watch. A whodunit.
You can't watch.
Would you take an interest in it and sit down and say, oh, tell me all about it?
Hmm?
That's what you think.
Yeah. It diffuses it. It's no fun anymore after that. If you walk in and say, oh, you're looking at naked ladies. It's no fun anymore after that. But you've taken the whole mystery and the whole. Of course, then you have to say tarnished, leisasuru. But don't judge them immediately as being sickos. Like, how did I create such a kid?
I think so.
Yeah, right away it's like, oh, well, what's wrong with me? I have a pervert for a kid. It's not. Like the people who say the Nazis were sick, they were perverted, and the Rebbe kept saying, they're normal human beings. A normal human being can be a Nazi. Don't. What they did was wrong and not allowed. Don't turn it into a personality flaw. There was nothing wrong with their personality. No. There's something wrong with their personality, but that's not what made them Nazis. So every time somebody does something really bad, we turn them into monsters, into sickos, into psychos. Not good. That's kind of like avoiding the moral issue. You know this Nazi hunter, what's his name? Wiesenthal? Oh, Simon Wiesenthal. Anyway, he writes that he was tracking down this Nazi, a really bad Nazi, and he finally found him. And he came face to face with him. And he writes, it's so upsetting. Why don't monsters look like monsters? The guy looked like a nice old man. He says, why don't monsters look like monsters? Because they're not monsters. They're bad people. And anyone can be just as bad. Doesn't take a special monster. So, go home and make your home happy. Happy. It's great. It's great to have the problems we have. Because obviously, that's what we're supposed to be dealing with. So deal with it happily. Make the house a happy place. There's nothing better. There's no better cure to everything. And don't let anything ruin that. Your kids have enough misery at school. They don't have to have it at home too.
Why school make, I mean, always you can blame the school, but I'm saying if you're trying to encourage your kid and the school, I mean, teacher too, doesn't matter who, keeping telling your kid that she's not good, she's bad, and how you can fix it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's getting better. Teachers, young blood, new energy, it's getting better. The problem is like this. You have 40 kids and you have to run a class. You don't want to deal with it. So if one kid is kind of like causing a little disturbance, just get rid of him. You have no time, you have no patience, you want to run a class, not people. That's what happens when you have big classes. It becomes impersonal. So you bring in these professionals who give you all these tricks and all these methods of how to keep everyone in line, even like cattle, and it works. But it's so impersonal. It's a gimmick. It's a trick. Because nobody has time to pay attention.
I'm not talking even about this time. I'm talking about that. I mean, they telling your daughter or something that you're bad. They're judging her by her.
Because
you're
she's...
bad, you're not this, you're not that, you're not going to be able to...
Yeah.
Cheating, I don't know whatever.
Because they have no patience. They just need to run a class and your daughter is disturbing. So she's just bad, got to get out of here. No. You're not teaching her well. Well, too bad. There are 29 other kids in the class. That's...
So smaller places would be a better chance for that child? Smaller schools, smaller classes will have a better
Sure,
chance for
sure,
that child.
sure.
Right, but you don't have to be something.
That's what you explain to the kid when she comes home and she tells you that the teacher said something to her.
Yeah, you
So
can't...
if it's a big class, that the teacher doesn't mean to do it to you just because.
Yeah, you can't expect the teacher to be your best friend. There are too many kids in the class. So she's just trying to keep the class moving, like a train conductor, you know. If you're making noise and getting in the way, they throw you off the train. Huh?
It's the same in yeshiva.
Yeah, I'm talking about yeshiva. Yeah. Yeah.
There's no time to deal with you personally.
Yeah.
You gotta run the class and any tips. There's no time. Oh.
So you got to make sure that at home they're getting personal attention. And it doesn't mean a lot of time. It really does not need a lot of time. You just have to make that eye contact when they walk in. You say, "Hi, how was school?" But mean it. That's all. It's enough.
How you mean it?
Huh? How do you mean it? No, 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 no.
If you know they have a test, how was your test? Okay.
No, just when you see them, make some contact. Say, "Oh, hi, it's you. I remember your name. You're one of mine, right?" Make some contact. That's better yet. Be excited to see them. That's it.
It comes back to the tznius thing. Pretend
But-
your child's a person on
Yeah.
a project.
But can you imagine the kid comes home from school, which means they've had a miserable day, right? Right? So this poor kid, beaten up and slammed and put down and discouraged, and walks in, and the first thing you say is, "Put your bags away." Thank you very much. I'm so glad to be home. Don't step on the floor, I just washed it.
I don't want to come home.
How do you answer teenagers' questions about intimacy when they want to know technical details?
Tell them everything.
Whatever, if they come to you?
Hmm?
It's their yourself?
If they're asking technical questions, if they're asking just general, then answer general. If they already know the general and they want to have a further, then tell them. What do you think is going to happen? You're going to go out and get pregnant? Nope. They'll
They
say,
don't come to ask you, you would tell them anyway.
they'll say, really? That's disgusting. The worst thing you can do is act strange. Why do you want to know? None of your business. Oh, then they know they're onto something. And Beis Rivka had many years ago, they had a textbook that there was a page there they didn't like, so they tore it out. And the Rebbe heard about it. He was not impressed. He said, "What did you do?" Now the only page they're really interested in, what'd you do? Like they're going back to the thing, if you can say it in a normal tone of voice, say it. But if you're going to get all choked up and red and embarrassed and start stuttering, then don't do it.
You have no choice if they're asking you.
Yeah.
Whether-
Yeah, but I'm saying there's nothing wrong with telling them. Just tell them normal.
Depends how you think they might react, though.
How they might react?
Yeah.
I know how they're going to react. They're going to say, "Oh, yuck."
But if you can't talk to them that way, that you get all embarrassed, then what do you do? You're embarrassed, so do you just not go into it, or we'll go into it some other time?
Try to act calm.
I mean, I kind of said that, well, we can worry about that when you're going on shidduch dates.
So what kind?
That now.
So what kind of impression does that leave? Oh, you mean people who go out on shidduch dates do things you're not supposed to do? That big mystery is not good.
So if they don't ask, when is the right time to say things?
By 9 for sure.
By 9.
What?
Boy and girl, by now?
And then is that like when they're asking you? Or
Even if they're not.
You're just, we were at someone's house, I met it, and this older lady's like, "Where did you get that nose?" Like 5 times to my kids. where did you get it? They're all just staring at her. Who gave you that note? They're staring at her. Who gave you that note? So one of them's like, Hashem. She's like, and who helped Hashem? They're like, I don't know. They just were staring at her. Who helped them? Your parents did. My daughter looks at me, she goes, how? I'm like, let's go eat the cheesecake. I was like, it was like, thank you very much for just.
Caught red-handed. How did you do that?
I was like, oh my gosh, this lady just like came in.
Okay, if they don't ask.
Like a message from heaven.
Right. So how, yeah, if they don't ask, they're just like.
Yeah, and that's, in that case, you should have said, every little girl looks like her mother.
Right.
You have my nose.
Like boys also, like, would that be like the man's job, like the husband's job?
Yeah, you're not. See, the worst thing you can do is what American parents do. Time to have the talk. That's the worst thing you can do. So, son, that's it. You can stop right there. You're on the wrong track. There's something you need to know. No. Don't do that. In the course of conversation, you're talking, you're discussing, you say. You don't make, a masechta, make a book out of it. So should it be the father? If it's a conversation about, yeah, it should be the father. If it's a conversation, what's the difference who it is?
Can you give an example about like how would you bring it up in a conversation?
First of all, by 9 years old, you have to assume that the kids already know something. And it can be something in the parsha. It can be in a conversation about tznius. Can be in a conversation about health. If a child is born, God forbid, with some kind of a problem, what does it mean he was born with the problem? There are plenty of opportunities to just talk about life, not about it. About life. I think in the olden days, people were more earthy, and it was just natural, casual conversation. Maybe because they lived on farms and they saw animals being born, but it was more life. Not a special occasion we're going to sit down and talk. How do you tell your daughter about getting her period? You have to tell her. Not going to wait until she's already freaked out about it. So what, 9, 10? And you don't make it a special occasion. You talk. The more casual, the more natural, the more innocent, the better. Right. Now you're ready to do it.
What did you say? The mother should do it or the father?
Doesn't matter.
For the boy?
But look at how paralyzed we are.
We were born to Russian parents.
We're grown up. and we're sophisticated, and we're knowledgeable, and we're paralyzed. Don't do this to your kids.
Are you supposed to try to inject like Kedusha into it, or that doesn't even come into the conversation?
Don't overdo it. You know what I mean? It's like, no. Really, it's a mitzvah. It is what it is. You can eat like a mensch, or like a chazer, and you can be intimate like a mensch, or like a chazer. But you don't have to embellish. You don't have to treat it any differently than anything else. And by the way, watch how your child eats, and you'll know what you need to tell them. We teach children to eat properly because that is going to have an effect on his other appetites. That's what I was saying before. There is no self-control anywhere in our lives. There is no impulse control. Where is the first place you teach a child impulse control? Food. You teach a child to eat like a mensch, he'll probably be a mensch when it comes to the bedroom. If he doesn't have any impulse control with food, so you see a child, for example, is sitting by the table. He cannot tolerate a moment, a second delay. He has to have it now. Say, I'm opening the thing, calm down. I'm giving. What this kid has got to learn to handle his appetite. Kid stuffs his mouth, can't get enough food in at this. Teach him to not be a victim of his appetite, but to be the mensch, the balabas over his appetite. So if you teach a child to wait a minute before starting to eat, that's a big thing. It's a big step towards menschlichkeit.
That's why everyone eats mezainis bread. There's no time to wash.
I was talking to a guy who was in the process of converting. We were sitting in a restaurant, and he says, "So before I actually go to the mikveh, give me one more thing I should learn. What do I need to know?" And he was sitting there with a spoon in one hand and a piece of bread in the other hand. I said, "What you need to know is eat with one hand. It's not a conveyor belt that has to, you can't have a break. so you have to have both hands ready to go. So when this is finished, this one comes. Slow down. Eat with one hand. It's fast enough." It was very effective. Like it changed his whole. It introduced a whole new thought, like. So you watch how children eat, and they can't finish the bracha before they put the food in their mouth. Don't let them get away with that. Start the bracha all over. Swallow, both. Make a real bracha and then you can eat. It's not just for the bracha, it's for the impulse control. And then there are kids who are so particular. Oh, the ketchup touched it, I can't eat it. Got to help them get over that. It's food, you can eat it. What are we having for dinner? Something edible. What's the difference? Huh?
Yeah, and then it's I'm not eating. I'm not eating.
Don't. Can't make a big deal about the not only food but the details. It's food, you eat it. You don't want to eat it, don't eat it. I was 15 years old one summer, and I ended up in a hospital in the Catskills. Car accident. The guy next to me, in the bed next to me, an older man, dignified, looked good. When they brought the food, it's hospital food. How good can it be already? But when they brought the food, he would start making preparations. He straightened out the bed, put on his robe, moved that rolling table into position, perfect, like this. And he's sitting there waiting for them to bring the food. And they bring the food, each plate had like a cover on it. So they would put down 3 different things, and you could see the man is like, and he picks up each plate and look, cover, checks out the next one. Then there's the pepper and the salt, and and he has to arrange it in such a way that, and I was so embarrassed for him. I was 15. But looking at that was like, are you ashamed of yourself? You're a grown man. Stop it. Don't you realize I'm watching? How can you be so shameless? If a child is that particular and that, you got to get him over it. There's David Raskin, was the mashpia in 770. We were sitting by Chasana. We're going to start a farbrengen. At the end of the Chasana, we're going to start farbrengen. And they brought out the dessert. And the dessert was an ice cream pie. Something, but ices, whatever. And the Bachram, like, because there was one with chocolate and one without chocolate, like, and he hated that. He couldn't stand it. So after everybody got their portion, so they put a plate in front of him too. So he looks at one of the Bachram and he says, "So good." The guy said, "Yeah." He said, "No, it's not nem meinem." He picks it up with his hand. He picks it up with his hand. He puts it on his plate, and the guy goes like, and David says, "Was." The glass does. No, you touched it. So first you're going crazy for this. No, oh, you touched it? So he was showing us, like, what did you just get excited about? So I'm not as a taiva is this. I touch it and you lose all interest. So the way we teach self-control or impulse control starts with eating. It affects everything. So in Kol Yachinuch V'Adracha, the Rebbe just mentions in passing that at a certain age, a child has to learn to be clean, to like being clean, and to not be picky about food. Like, why is that so important? So you're ready to go home? In a good mood? Really, that's the bottom line. The conclusion of it all is, make a happy home. How frum they're going to be? You know, the Rebbe will worry about that, the Eibishter will worry about that, but you give the Eibishter happy kids. That's the first requirement.